Hey Dragon Slayers. So today's video is about how when something sounds true, we often start believing that it is true. We've all heard the story about George Washington chopping down the cherry tree, but it's a historical lie. Sometimes when a lie sounds like it should be true and people repeat it often enough, even experts in the field begin to believe the lie and repeat it. Even doctors do this. Just as many teachers through the decades have taught their students about the lie of George and his naughty hatchet, doctors sometimes teach their patients medical lies that are harmful. When we learn a medical lie from a doctor, it can affect our health in negative ways. Medical lies don't usually start this way, but it is how a few of them have been born. The problem is that when an expert tells a medical lie, whether it's your doctor, the ADA, the FDA, the AMA, or the USDA, patients tend to believe it blindly. The patients then repeat it and keep repeating it for years, even after the experts have disproved it and stopped repeating it themselves. Experts very seldom, and by very seldom, I mean never, retract their previous opinions in a meaningful public way when they've been proven wrong by further research. The experts just stop repeating the lie and move on with their careers as if nothing happened. You, as a patient, would have no way of discovering this change in expert opinion without doing hours of research on your own. Therefore, you would continue to believe the lie. This is what Dr. Berry calls the echo of the lie. Man, this is so true, not just within the medical field, but it's true in every aspect of life. The older I get and the more I study and research for myself, I begin to realize that nothing is as it seems. And so many things that we take for common knowledge or common sense are completely wrong. So one of my favorite examples of this is the idea throughout society that a house is the best investment that you can ever make. So I've found that through my own research and experience, this statement is completely false. Unless we're talking about a rental property, your primary residence, aka the house that you buy to live in, is almost never an investment, but a liability. So I'll give you some examples of how this works. So an investment is anything that you put money or time into, and then you gain income from it, either income or assets or some sort of appreciating wealth in the future. And I know most people are going to say, oh, well, housing is absolutely that way, because if you buy a house for $300,000 today, 10 years from now, it'll be worth 400,000 plus. This is true. However, to call it the best investment that you could make is just not true at all. So, you've got to have maintenance on your home. That is a liability. If you didn't pay for it cash, which most people do not, you have to pay your mortgage. That is also a liability. Your house, whatever it appreciates over time, is going to pretty much equal out. So everything that you put into it, by the time you sell it, it's usually going to break even. It's not going to give you some massive investment. Now, there are a few fringe examples. There are people that I know of. So I knew of a woman who bought a home in like the 1950s near downtown Houston. And, the city exploded and she ended up selling that house, I don't know, 40 plus years later for $1.1 million. Original purchase price was like 20 or 30 grand. That was an amazing investment. But that is rare. It is very rare that that happens. What is more common is that you get a house in the burbs, even if the city is still sprawling out. If you don't live in New York or San Francisco or the really, really hot ticket items, your primary resident will almost never appreciate enough to really live off of. and you also have to live somewhere. So even if your house, say you bought a house for 400,000 and then in the future you sold it for 800,000, like on paper, let's say minus all of the expenses and everything, on paper you made, we'll just say $300,000, right? So you still got to live somewhere. So 10 years into the future, 20 years into the future, you're going to have to take that 800,000 that you made and buy a new home or rent, or there's no real way around it. Your primary residence is absolutely a liability. It is very, very rarely an investment. Now, rental properties are a completely different class. That can be an investment and a really good investment over time. But the idea that you should just dump all of your spare money into your house, I think, is completely false. And I think that any financial expert who tells you to do that is doing you a disservice. That's one of my opinions. You know, I'm just some guy on YouTube. Don't take what I say to the bank. But there are so many other examples that I don't have time to go into. That was one that I felt passionate about and wanted to share with you guys. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember, guys, that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.